Producer Joe here from the Working Fans Podcast. And at the Working Fans Podcast, this is just a podcast that three lifelong fans created to have a place to talk comedy and pro wrestling. Now, our comedy podcast releases every Tuesday, while our wrestling podcast releases every Thursday. We release bonus episodes under the moniker Working Fans Presents every now and then. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, any major podcast provider. The important thing is just please like, rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to us. Now, we have started a new thing. We are now on Amazon and Audible. So those episodes release every Monday. And that's kind of going through the archives and just releasing our old episodes in a new area. So if you want to live through the process with us again, take that journey with us again, you can find us over on Amazon and Audible. Now, if you can't get enough of us in the audio form, check out our YouTube. It's youtube.com/C/Working Fans Wrestling Pod, or just search Working Fans Podcast on YouTube. We have the whole archive is up there. And if you listen to the Working Fans Podcast, you are more than familiar with the 531. That is our signature segment where we take your top 5 lists on a particular subject, vote it down to a top 3, and then debate it down to a top 1. Now, guys, if you want to hear 3 guys talk shit about comedy, wrestling, life, anything, you will enjoy the Working Fans Podcast. Welcome back for Working Fans Podcast, episode, what are we, 105 now, I think?
Oh, we won something, baby. We got so much episodes. Man, people want to change our name. I told you about that feedback we got. Some girl was talking about, got to change that logo, all that stuff, But she listened to the show, so I don't know.
Yep, Working Fans Podcast, episode 105, top Paul Orndorff matches. It's me. It's the man they call Dave, and just in the nick of time, coming from God knows where, AJ Strangebrew, because
we're live.
He would not miss top Paul Orndorff matches of 531.
I'm sorry, guys. I just flew in from Japan. I've been vaccinating all the Joshi women. I'm sorry. I'm trying to help.
That's all right, man. You got in this here. We're recording, right? We're ready. We're in it.
Yeah. Now, guys. Top Paul Orndorff matches. This is something that's important to both of you more so than me. Kind of share your thoughts of Paul Orndorff before we go into these matches.
Paul Orndorff was the very first bad guy I ever liked. I don't know. It was the red robe, the pile driver. I just thought he was cool as shit, and I was super happy when he was a babyface. But even when he became a babyface as a young kid who still kind of believed in the business, I was like, I don't trust this guy. There's something about him. And, then he turned on our hero, as AJ would call him, the great Hulk Hogan. And he said that, he was like, I knew something was up because, he tried to call Hulk, and Hulk was busy doing a workout. And I'm like, that ain't going to sit right with Mr. Wonderful. And sure enough, following week, Orndorff power drove his ass. But I was always a big fan of Paul.
So there was just something Paul Orndorff had. First of all, one of the best physiques I've ever seen in wrestling. He looked like what you would expect a superstar to look like. He had a cool nickname, the Brandon Bull, which wasn't always used, obviously. But from time to time, that's what Gorilla Monsoon would call him because he's from Brandon, Florida. He was a football player. He grew up in that Florida area. He just absolutely tremendous athlete. But he always had that face that looked like a bad guy. no matter how much he was trying to be a good guy and how much he was saying like good guy words, his face just said, "I want to kill you." And it was very hard for me to ever believe him as a good guy. But he was the second heel that I could remember that was that cool heel. Obviously, Superstar Billy Graham was the first one that I remembered being like that. But then Paul Orndorff was that cool heel. There was just something about him. And I still think he beat Hogan for the championship. His feet hit the ground first.
All right. Since Mr. Wonderful died a couple weeks ago, we want to pick his top matches and go over them. And the first list I got is from Dave Fabe. He's got Paul Orndorff versus Ox Baker in an arm wrestling match he saw on Mid-South TV. We got Orndorff versus Tito Santana for the IC title. He saw this on the MSG network back in the day. He's a little bit of an older fan. Obviously, he's got Hogan and T versus Orndorff and Piper. He's got, guys, he went to a UWF event in New York, and he saw Orndorff go over Valentine. And then his last
that was the crappy UWF, too. That wasn't the good UWF. That was crappy. That's a good match.
Yeah, he said it was a bright spot in an otherwise shaky card. And then his last match was Orndorff versus Arn, Clash of the Champions 11.
Oh, yeah. Talk about two tough customers.
I think Orndorff's later work is a little underrated, to be honest with you.
That stuff he did at WCW, NWA was great.
I enjoyed Pretty Wonderful with him and Paul Roma.
We actually have a list coming up that is along those same lines. But Dave, what's the first list you got for us today?
All right, my friends, let's get right to it. I'm prepared. Hold on a second here. We got Randy Osga. All right, everybody's favorite. He's got Mr. Wonderful versus Hulk Hogan, the steel cage main event from Saturday night's main event.
Yeah.
That's
hard to argue with it.
That's a hard one to beat.
He's got Orndorff versus Piper from Saturday night's main event, October 5th, 85. Paul Orndorff versus Cactus Jack, Falls Count Anywhere match, Super Bowl 3, February 21st, 1993. Also, Paul Orndorff, Iron Anderson from that Clash of Champions you talked about. And he's got the original WrestleMania. In terms of historical significance, I can see where a lot of people might have that first Mania match. Man, that Cactus Jack shit, in particular what AJ was talking about, his later work in WCW, his stuff with Cactus Jack was just off the page. I thought was really good. And Cactus was a big part of that. As tough as Mr. Wonderful was, Cactus Mick Foley really went out of his way, too, taking some crazy bumps for Paul at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about Paul Orndorff in that time period also is you can already see that he's having nerve damage and trouble with his arm because he did whatever, God knows what, pinched what nerve or what caused the atrophy, but you could already see that one of his arms is struggling. And that match with Cactus Jack was just out of this world.
Yep. Now, it's funny you bring up Orndorff versus Cactus Jack because Al Hunt is the next list I have. And
is he related to Mike?
His little brother.
I like him.
His first match is Survivor Series 87, Butch Reed, Andre the Giant, King Kong Bundy, Rick Rude, and the One-Man Gang versus Bigelow, Morocco, Hogan, Patera, and Orndorff. A little bit of an older fan, and he's a sucker for the Survivor Series. His second match, Paul Orndorff versus Cactus Jack, Super Brawl 3. Another UWF one. This is funny. Orndorff beat Orton for the Southern States title on a UWF Fury Hour, a forgotten TV show in most people's eyes. He's got Pretty Wonderful versus Cactus Jack and Kevin Sullivan, Back to the Beach 1994. And he's got Hogan and T versus Orndorff and Piper, WrestleMania 1.
So far, that WrestleMania match has been on everybody's list. So.
Yes, it has.
I don't know if it's necessarily, again, like the greatest match if you ever see it, but it certainly is. I mean, you talk about a claim to fame, being on the original WrestleMania main event.
Yeah. The claim to fame is that Orton was the only one who was willing to do the job in the match.
Well, Paul took the pin, but Orton had to,
But he was the only one who was willing to. Piper wasn't willing to do a job. Obviously, you weren't going to job out T or Hogan. So it had to be Orndorff.
Right, true.
Now, who do you got for your next list, Dave?
I got our boy Jesse from New Hampshire. He also has the first Mania main event. He's also got that Hogan Cage match from Saturday Night's Main Event 87. He's got Morocco Mania 2. He's got the Cactus.
Son of a bitch.
He's got the Cactus Jack Falls Count Anywhere Super Brawl 3, and he's got Ricky Steamboat TV title Clash of the Champions.
Wow,
that's a good one. Well, the good thing about New Hampshire is they haven't actually gotten the UWF events yet. They're coming to live cable next year for them. So.
All right, I've got
excited for them.
The next list I got is from Mike Allen. Now, he was big into WCW in 1994, so he's got Pretty Wonderful defeated Stars and Stripes, The Patriot, and Marcus Alexander Bagwell on a WCW Saturday.
That might be the only list Marcus Bagwell ever makes.
He's got Pretty Wonderful defeated the Nasty Boys on WCW Saturday night. He was a big Pretty Wonderful mark. He was at Slamboree 94, where Pretty Wonderful, his favorite tag team, got to take on the Armstrongs, Brad and Brian, and he said it was a hell of a match. And then he's got Flying Brian and Sting defeated Pretty Wonderful. And he's got that. Since he was such a Paul Orndorff mark, he went back and watched the Mania 1 match. And like Dave said, it wasn't the greatest match, but since he liked Orndorff so much, he took in the historical significance of it.
That Armstrong match was probably a dark match, or maybe on the Sunday Night's Main Event version of that Super Brawl too. Because I don't know if that made the actual pay-per-view, but either way, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it was the dark match. It was at that Slamboree.
Slamboree
might have showed up on something.
Yeah.
So I'm working on going back to training right now, and one of the places I'm talking to is Paradise Alley by Paul Roma. I will let him know that he's got a huge fan out there of Pretty Wonderful, and he made our top list 5 times on that kid's card.
Yeah, Mike Allen. Now, AJ, why don't you give us your list, and then how many more lists you got there, Dave?
I got one more than mine. So
all right.
So my list is actually, I have Bob Orton Jr. also, but I have it from November 7th, 1985. It's one of the wrestling classics. If you go back on the WWE Network, they have the wrestling classics on there now. Sorry, Peacock Wrestling Network or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Show some respect.
They're starting to show the wrestling classics, and one of the ones they have on there is Bob Orton Jr. Actually against Paul Orndorff, and Paul Orndorff wins by DQ with interference by Rowdy Piper. So that's a good little match. I got the Saturday Night's Main Event actually against Adrian Adonis, where Adrian Adonis wins by disqualification. Paul Orndorff actually gets disqualified. He hits Adrian Adonis with his own whatever that perfume thing was from the flower shop. Another one that I have is actually the big event, August 28th, 1986. Hulk Hogan defeated Paul Orndorff by disqualification. I have Paul Orndorff the match versus Cactus Jack, just like everybody else has, because to me that was just hard hitting and really started to show what Cactus could do when he got to WCW. And then the other one that I have is, this is to me a little bit of a lost one. It's from June 8th of 1987. Orndorff had just turned heel again, obviously, but he's wrestling Ken Patera and on the June 87 show, and it's absolutely fantastic. Ken Patera, it's really one of the last good matches he had. At that point, he had come back with the brown hair and couldn't really move the way he used to move, but they pulled down a hell of a match.
All right, now for the sake of time, Dave, since we're up against the clock, I don't know.
I got it. Don't worry. All right, Mike Cadwell from the Mikey and Fred page. He has Paul Orndorff versus Bob Orton for that same wrestling classic match. You think AJ ripped off this list? He's got Paul Orndorff versus Adrian Adonis from Saturday Night's Main Event. He's got Paul Orndorff versus Hulk Hogan from the big event. All right, here's where it's going to differ. He's got Paul Orndorff versus B. Brian Blair, joint in progress. The Paula chants are coming in loud and very clear, and Orndorff isn't happy. Very good match. July 7th, 84. I wonder if that's a nope, that's got to be WWE at that time. And then he's got Hogan and Paul Orndorff versus the Moondogs. He doesn't say this, but that is the emphasis match where Orndorff turns on Hogan afterwards.
Yeah, that's the one where he actually turns on him and clotheslines him out of his boots.
And since we're short on time, I will go immediately to my list. I got Hogan versus Orndorff in that cage as well. Also versus Wonderful versus Cactus Jack, like everybody else. I got Wonderful versus Hogan in that big event, like AJ does. I will add that was a event that was made for VHS, and it drew 74,000 people in Toronto.
I would like to point out that Dave has seen Mike's list, and I had not, so maybe one of us stole it.
I also have Brian Pillman, Dustin Rhodes, and Steve Austin.
That's a good one.
Brian Pillman, Sting, and Dustin Rhodes versus Steve Austin and Paul Orndorff and Rick Rude. And that was the Thunderdome cage match, Super Brawl 94. And I have the Mania 1 main event as well. Okay, for the sake of time, guys, I'll get this ball rolling. I think the Mania 1 main event's got to be in there. The cage match has got to be in there.
Jack's got to be in there.
And I'll throw Cactus Jack in there. All right? And one of them's got to go. Sorry, Mick. We love you. Bang, bang. You're out of here. And that's going to leave the 2. And I'll tell you what, AJ, I'll let you fucking pick it. Do you want to go with historical significance, or do you want to go that cage match, which honestly is pretty historic?
I'm going with the cage match because I still think Orndorff hit first, and the WrestleMania match sucked.
You know what? I agree. 5-3-1. Fucking pile driver. Hogan, you lost. We're out.
Fans, we are joining you today to talk an Impact Plus. What would you call this? Like an event?
It's one of their exclusive events. You know, they have those exclusively for Impact Plus. Homecoming 2021. I only saw one other one. It was in 2019 for Impact Wrestling.
Did they do a similar setup to this that they did in that first Homecoming? Was it like a mixed tag tournament?
I should have looked. I did not, my friend. I did not check that out. But
because going into this event, like I haven't kept up with Impact, sadly, much since Slammiversary. And I didn't realize it was a mixed tag event coming in. Once I realized what was going on, I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea. But
they did not, by the way. 2019
okay.
was a separate event. Yeah, it was interesting. You know, it's almost similar. I don't know if you've been keeping up with NWA recently either, but they're doing something called the Championship Series in between right before they have their 2 big events coming in April. And so it's like these team concepts where I think Nick Aldis and somebody I forget, maybe Terrence Terrell, are like they have a team, right? And then Austin Idol and somebody has a team, and they all have teams, and they all have like singles matches, and you're trying to earn points. And it's just like it's a little bit a confusing concept, I think, but at the same time, it's like they're trying to do different things, like, you know what I mean, to like keep the show going for like besides your regular storylines. And I kind of like respect it, I guess, but also at the same time, it's like I don't know if all these are hits. You know?
Yeah, it's good that they're doing something. I haven't been keeping up with NWA over the past month. I do got to catch up going into that women's pay-per-view and then the anniversary show. NWA, they do a lot. They seem to do a lot of concepts to keep things going. Like if they don't have a show, they'll have like a review show or something. And I always seem to tune in on the weeks when it's that other show. Like the last time I tuned in, it was like some review show, and I'm like, "Come on, man, I'm here for the wrestling." So I was like,
Power Surge.
Yeah, that's
it was like a half hour, 40 minutes. I think you get one match. And then it was like, tons of look back at different segments. I was going to say, too, ironically, since we're talking Impact, I would say the thing that's got me most excited for the NWA pay-per-view, at least the women's pay-per-view coming up, was Mickie James on Impact when she was doing her angle with Peraza and wanted getting there, and the confrontation they had on the pay-per-view, and in the following week's TV episode, they had a confrontation too where Gail Kim got involved as well, where Peraza agreed to do it, by the way. But like that's actually what got me most excited about that NWA Women's pay-per-view was that.
Yeah, you do need female talent for that, and seeing Deonna Purrazzo come in, that is a huge talent, and I want to see who she can get matched up with in that. But we watched Homecoming from over the weekend. It crept up on me. I think I found out about it the day of, maybe the day after, and I'm like, oh, I'll have to go back and watch that. And without getting into the actual details of the event, what were your thoughts of this event to start off with?
Again, I mean, it's not something, it wasn't a can't miss show. You know what I mean? At the same time, I will say this, again, bringing this back to Deonna Purrazzo, of all people, like that was the big story coming out of it. It was her and I'm going to butcher his name.
Raywalt.
Raywalt, thank you. The Drama King, formerly known as Aiden English, as part of the Vaudevillains, and also his time with Rusev in WWE as his manager. And Rusev Day, that whole shtick. But I thought the Drama King and Purrazzo, the Virtuosa, I thought what a great fit. You know, they end up winning this mixed tag team event, and it was great. I liked the little crown, and I thought I kind of hope to see more of them together. I think like they could be a good fit together, and I thought that was the main thing about this event. Like it was to showcase them as a potential unit and team. And boy, I'll tell you what, for people that you know, who left WWE and went to AEW, Purrazzo, who left WWE and went to Impact, like she's done so well at just reinventing herself. And maybe it's not even reinventing, it's maybe Impact just putting the spotlight on her. But wow, I'm so impressed with her, and I definitely hope that either she gets to AEW at some point or gets a run in WWE again that she deserves, because she's someone that deserves a national spotlight. Her character, I know she's said in things, she's like her mic work is the thing she needs to continue to work on the most, but to me, she's getting there. She's getting there. As like, her character is great, and her in ring, her persona, it's all perfect for her.
Yeah, and I mean, we already talked about the ending to this whole thing, but let's start at the beginning. We started off with Hernandez and Alicia Edwards joined the ring by Johnny Swinger versus Deonna Purrazzo and what was billed as a mystery opponent who was unveiled to be Matthew Raywalt. And at first, you know, we knew the Drama King was coming, so that wasn't a surprise, but I was kind of like, what is he going to bring? How is this going to go? His opening promo, I thought, was a good debut. It was, I'd say, a decent opener. Hernandez and Alicia Edwards felt like an odd team. Like, if you had Eddie Edwards and his wife, this tournament, I don't know, it might have fit together more because you had like Matt Cardona and Chelsea Green together who will wrestle in the next match. You have Jordan Grace and Petey Williams who have had this association. Alicia Edwards and Hernandez might have had an association, but to me it just seemed like an odd team.
Their association was through Swinger's Palace.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why they came out with Johnny Swinger. But yeah, they look like an odd Misfit Toys connection. Like they didn't really go together. And to me, it was telling, right? Like there was never really doubt in the outcome of this. Like I was not expecting Alicia Edwards and Hernandez to go over in this. This was to showcase, you know, Purrazzo and the Drama King and see how they were going to fit as a team. And I think right away I didn't know Purrazzo and him were going to win, but I knew like, okay, this is going to be the two going in the finals.
Yeah, I saw them going to the finals. Obviously, you're going to put them up against teams that'll lose, but this just seemed too obvious. Now, after this match, Stryker and D'Lo, they kind of broke down the night. They let us know we were going to see Josh Alexander versus Black Taurus for the X Division Championship. And obviously, Eddie Edwards versus W. Morrissey. The next match, Jordan Grace and Petey Williams versus Matt Cardona and Chelsea Green. Now, going into this tournament, I don't know who you thought would win, but for me, I thought this was Cardona and Green all day. So I thought Steiner entrance was cool. It plays on Jordan Grace's nickname. Obviously, Petey Williams has that association with Scott Steiner. I thought it was a fun match, even though the outcome seemed obvious. Jordan Grace, amazing in the ring. Same with Petey Williams.
Yeah.
There was a post-match attack by Steve Macklin, who he's from the WWE too, right?
He was part of the Forgotten Sons gimmick.
Okay, that's why I don't know who he is. Forgot him already.
Yeah, we forgot you. I think that was a chant at the old NXT days when they were just doing the tapings, at the.
Oh yeah, when you got shitty booking because you had such a powerful team, but you just put them in this middle forgotten area that they're gonna get something like that. Unfortunate name for that situation.
Yeah, he's actually, ironically, this keeps segueing, but I believe he's actually the real life boyfriend though of Deonna Purrazzo. But they're not putting them together. Yeah, I would agree. Much like the first match, I kind of knew who was going to win here, but I also thought that Petey and Grace they went together, and it left the outcome a little more in doubt. And they all put together an entertaining match. There were moments on this where you're like, hey, but nope. At the end, Cardona and Green, who should have went over, did go over. I actually would have liked to seen them versus the Drama King and the Virtuoso in the finals. That, as we'll talk, did not play out that way, but I thought that would have been a better finals.
I was going to say that is one of my notes in the later matches.
Oh, okay. So we're on the same page. All right. Anyway, go ahead.
So following this was a W. Morrissey promo. I would say probably the best promo I think I've ever heard him cut, if not the best, close to the best. And it set the stage for a main event that I really didn't care about.
Yeah, no, he's been they trying to push him, and I mean now we got fans back, and to me it's just showing how he's not really connecting for whatever reason. I don't know why. He's big, he's strong. I think he needs I watched him in SWE Fury a few times with Melina, and the presentation's a little better over there. I think he needs that. I think he needs a mouthpiece or a good-looking manager or somebody to catch your eye. There needs to be something else with him. I mean, if you look at his most success, it was with Enzo. It was with Enzo doing the majority of the talking, and he had a few lines. He's a great big guy. He's got a good look, but for whatever reason, I think he just needs that little something extra that he hasn't had yet.
Yeah, to me, he's like a piece of cooked chicken. It's good on its own, but it's missing that flavoring to make it complete. He's getting better. He's doing better than I thought I'd care about him in his post-WWE career. But
where are the mashed potatoes? Give me my mashed potatoes and my gravy. Damn it.
So following this promo, we had Tommy Dreamer and Rachel Ellering versus Brian Myers and a mystery opponent.
I forgot about this.
Now, Sam Beal, Brian's assistant, who I haven't kept up with, I just had to look that name up to find out who it was, brings out Missy Hyatt. And
classic.
Yeah, I didn't expect it. We got more of a match than I thought out of this. But this is another one where you're like, God, I wonder who's going to win this.
Right. When Misty comes out and says, I'm not a wrestler, you're like, okay, so this is interesting.
Well, she's not dressed for wrestling.
Not even dressed for wrestling. You knew what was going to happen. But it was an interesting throwback. Seeing Missy Hyatt on there. It was something different.
Yeah, she looks all right for her age. I mean, definitely had a few things done.
You're a lovely lady, Missy. We'll leave it at that. I don't know what my man's talking about. Anyway.
No, I follow her. She's a good follow still. Yeah. Looks good for her age, but
Tommy Dreamer, Rachel Ellering, come out with Road Warrior.
Yep, Road Warrior inspired.
Yeah.
One with the Doomsday device. I like that whole motif.
I did. I like that. I would say it's interesting though, because besides Deonna Purrazzo, one other person I thought who's done great in Impact, really reinvented himself, was Brian Myers. And I know that story will continue, but this was not going to be the showcase of Brian Myers. This was more about the story of Sam Beal continuing to mess things up, it looks like, for Brian Myers, and not be able to get him the right tag team partner.
And at the very least, you're getting to see some personality out of Brian Myers. We're getting good in-ring matches. You're getting that good personality. He's done good in Impact. Same with Rachel Ellering. I think she's really starting to gain a name for herself, and this could be that first spot for her to pop off and get that bigger stage.
Absolutely. I mean, I think she had one match maybe in AEW Dark, and she was obviously in the Mae Young Classic there for a while, but she hasn't had a chance to really showcase herself on a promotion. And I think Impact has given her that platform, and I think it's good for her. I don't know. I'm excited with what we've seen Rich Owens so far. I think she's definitely got time to get better, and that's the great thing about Impact and some of these other promotions.
Yeah, I would have liked to see her stay in that tag team she started with, but working with Tommy Dreamer is just as good. Following this, we got a Violent by Design promo. Good enough. I mean, it didn't really do a ton for me, but I don't know if it's just because I knew this was like an Impact Plus event that I wasn't as excited as I would be for a full-blown pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was just tired when watching it, but like certain things didn't hit for me. This did nothing, and I like Violent by Design.
See, I like them too, but honestly, now with Jay White showing up, with the Good Brothers Omega, and some more New Japan talent being there, and then stuff the different promotions, I feel like they're starting to lose steam. Like they're kind of starting to get lost a little bit for me. I'm not saying like I'm completely down on them yet, but like we need to see them involved in something and see the next. I'm done with the Willie Mack, former world champion, Rich Swann. Yeah, I'm done with this feud. So I don't know. I don't know what's next. I want to see different things for Swann and Millie Mack too. Let's move in different directions.
See, I think when your promo is like all about how Diener is gonna get it for you, then maybe that's what lost it. Like I'm like, fuck this guy. But
yeah,
following this promo, we got the decay of Rosemary and Crazy Steve versus Falaba and Tasha Steelz. And following a theme where the entrances are kind of fun, they kind of match up with each other. I like this match. This was, I would say, maybe the first match that honestly got me into it. Like Cardona and Chelsea Green I was into, but I also expected them to win. So it wasn't like I was like sitting there focused. But this was the one that I was like, okay, I think you got me in here for it.
Yeah, so Falaba, I don't know, man. I just don't take the guy seriously, but he's funny at times.
He's got good spots. His team with TJP has been all right.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Rosemary in particular. I love Decay. I'm glad. I knew they were going over here. This was another one where I didn't really, it wasn't really in doubt to me.
Yeah, a lot of these first round matches, it seemed obvious. And this one was 9-14. So that was the second longest match of the show so far.
Yeah.
Cardona and Green had the longest one.
There was a great spot in there where Falaba kind of pushed Rosemary down and Weirdo, and he made that little like face like Rosemary does, and then Rosemary did it, and he gets scared and runs away. So I mean, there's some fun. This was a fun match at times. I'll give it that. But
this also featured the biter face off chant, which kept up for a while during this. Which I was like, all right, if that's what you guys want,
that's what they want at Sky Studio, baby.
Following this was the last match of the first round. So following this was the Steve Macklin promo.
Yep.
Once again, kind of forgettable for me because I was like, oh, what's this guy doing here? But next up was the first singles match of the show. Willie Mack brought to the ring by Rich Swann versus Diener, brought to the ring by Violent by Design. This match went 9 minutes, 42 seconds. And what do you got to say about it besides the sad choice and a winner?
Yeah, I was going to say that was the surprise of the night. Cody Diener got the win. He almost never wins, and I guess they felt like they had to get him to – he's usually the fall guy for Design, right?
Yeah.
And I think we all wondered, like, at some point, are they just going to kick him out of this group? Because, he's not getting it done. But
I mean, we were all hoping.
Yeah, apparently not, yeah. So they put him over Willie Mack. And Willie Mack is a guy who's been booked strong by that company for the most part. So I'm a little surprised. This only made me wonder if Willie Mack's contract was up. Like, why did we
this surprised me. I was like, wow, you want to make a Willie Mack match boring, put Diener in it. Like, Willie Mack is excellent in the ring.
Yeah.
But something about this match, I'm like, ooh. It almost felt like a break. Like, let me go get something to drink out of the kitchen while this is on.
Yeah, I that's how I felt, and then I thought, okay, this match isn't really for me, and but not only was it not for me, I felt like the wrong guy won too. Like, wait, what? Like that was a surprise in it, which wasn't a good surprise. But and again, it's his personal taste. I'm not really into Diener, like you said too. He doesn't really do it for me. I think his faces are kind of silly. I'm not buying the gimmick, and I'm just not interested in it. Whereas Willie Mack to me has always been a good promo. He's great in the ring, and I just like to see this guy doing something else.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, we haven't kept up with Impact as much, so maybe this would have meant more to a week-to-week watcher.
Joe Doring in this match would have meant more to me. Willie Mack versus Joe Doring would have been more interesting to me.
Versus anybody else. Diener, we talk about it all the time, how he's just the worst member of the group. The faces are weird. Like, I feel like he had more of something when he was paired with Cousin Jake for like the last year or so. And when they split that team up, Jake something looks like a star every time you see him in the ring.
Yes.
Big badass. And this dude is just floundering in this group. And
they got the wrong guy. We got the wrong cousin.
To me, it almost brings down the group a little bit. But I mean, it is what it is. Following this match, Matt Cardona and Chelsea Green backstage, which the match following this surprised me very much because, like you said earlier, the next match is Deonna Purrazzo and Matthew Raywalt versus Matt Cardona and Chelsea Green. The match went 9 minutes, 34 seconds, and I have a note written down that said this would have made a great final. This is where I thought the tournament would have gone, but I also didn't pay attention to where the brackets were broken down. So this is the semifinal, and I thought it was a good match. I personally thought it was over when Deonna Purrazzo locked onto Cardona's arm, and I thought, how interesting of a story would that be coming out of this match? But it wasn't to be.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that more promotions, I don't know. I mean, obviously you don't want to affect your storylines, but man, let's pay attention to the temperature in the room. Cardona is a hot commodity right now in the wrestling biz. All right. He's got some buzz coming off of his appearance with GCW. GCW's got some buzz. Nick Gage was just on AEW. People know. People that follow Impact know that stuff. Anyone who might have tuned into this event, let's take advantage of that. Let's have a little fun and let's spot this guy a little more. I mean, they gave him the victory. They had a competitive match, and Cardona and Green, who are a real-life couple and have had some wins, which they even put over in their interview before this, that they were the couple that were undefeated going into this, which was a nice little twist going into this match because it made you wonder, like, okay, are they going to lose? Which they ended up, which I could have saw this again. This is the match I could have saw going either way. So once Virtuoso and the Drama King win this match, to me, it was apparent they were going to win the whole thing. So I guess that's the other thing in the booking, right? That's how I felt anyway. I didn't think it was going to be Decay. I didn't think it was going to be any other team. I thought these were the two teams. Whoever won this was going to be the winner.
Yeah.
And but I mean, there was a great match because of that. But to me, after this, I kind of knew what direction we were going in.
Same here. I thought Cardona and Green were going to win it. But then once it was done, I'm like, oh, so this whole pay-per-view is built around debuting Matthew Raywalt.
Yes.
And it almost seems like, in turn, pairing him with Deonna Purrazzo to give you these personalities going forward. So that makes Impact interesting this coming Thursday. But of all the things that Impact has that's interesting, this is what, third, fourth on the list? You got Jay White there. You still have Kenny Omega bouncing around. Sure. There's more New Japan involvement. So
wouldn't it be more interesting right now? Cardona, the GCW heavyweight champion, coming off that buzz. If Impact actually pushed that a little bit, and we had the GCW champion going after Kenny Omega for the Impact World title, and it's Kenny Omega. Which, don't get me wrong, there's a battle royal coming up, I guess, on one of these episodes, and the winner of that battle royal is supposed to get a shot at Omega. Maybe I just talked myself into something I want to see, but I'd kind of be cool to see Cardona versus Omega right now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're working their way there. You would like to hope so, because especially with the heat and the notoriety that Cardona got off of that win, you would think they'd be able to do something with it. But after this match, Missy Hyatt was interviewed backstage. Brian Myers comes in. Sam Beal comes in. We get the Missy hitting Sam in the head with a purse spot. I thought this was good. It brought together the Missy storyline, and this combined with the match overall, I would say, is a decent presentation on the night.
It was a good kind of corny. It was a little corny, but it was a good kind of corny. Like you kind of laugh, like, all right, you know.
Yeah, you gotta have that sports entertainment in there. I liked Brian's mood coming into this. You know, annoyed, like, what are we doing here? And
yeah,
I thought the segment played out well, but the next match was. Let me check my notes here. That is the next semifinal match. That's Rosemary and Crazy Steve versus Tommy Dreamer and Rachel Ellering. Not a bad match. It went 10:59. So, just about the longest match of this tournament is like the matches are progressively getting better as they go up. I didn't see Rosemary and Crazy Steve winning, honestly. I thought with the Road Warrior face paint, you might advance them.
Sure, I could see that where it's like kind of like because I was kind of leaning towards them too. I wasn't surprised.
There's one Cardona and Green are out of it. It's like, all right, who's gonna win? Who's gonna lose at this point?
See, I think Decay was kind of the favorites in my mind still going into this, but I thought given the nature that we already gave Dreamer and Rachel Ellering the victory, and I thought it could be the feel-good story. Well, Tommy will make it down to the finals with Rachel Ellering. We'll see how they get close. But they didn't go in that direction either. I thought, they made Dreamer and Ellering look strong enough. But at the end of the day, now we got Decay, who's a real team, so you have that against, like we said before, the Virtuoso and Drama King. And I just thought that, again, at this point, I already knew where this pay-per-view was headed, or this show was headed.
Yep. Next up, we got Eddie Edwards backstage,
yes.
Hyping up that match. Mm-hmm. Once again, not a main event I'm terribly excited for. It felt like maybe that was another problem I had with the show, where it felt like the homecoming was the centerpiece of this.
Right.
Then you're making this main event between Eddie Edwards, a guy I like to see in the ring, and W. Morrissey, who he's there. I mean, they're experimenting with the push. They're doing what they can, but just it is what it is.
I didn't think Edwards was going to win going into this until I saw the homecoming finals, and I realized that the heels had won, and I thought, they might let Eddie win because they had been pushing Morrissey so hard. But that's another thing I don't like about Morrissey too, is that name. But I gotta say that
what did this promo do for the
I'm jumping ahead. No, I didn't give a shit. I was still disappointed in this. But anyway, let's go in order. Go ahead.
Now, since we got the semifinals over with, the next match, Josh Alexander versus Black Taurus for the X Division title. Longest match of the show, 16:08 at this point. All times are provided by cagematch.net. Wrestling database, awesome place for news, results, anything you need. But I like this match, even though I wasn't, once again, terribly excited for it. This perked me up a little bit because Josh Alexander has been doing excellent things with that X Division title. Black Taurus, and it had also the effect of being the second singles match we've seen on the night. So that switched it up a bit.
That was nice. Again, I think a theme I feel like I'm having here with this show, though, with the booking. Again, another match where I didn't really see the outcome was in danger. I haven't seen Taurus. He's entertaining, but I didn't see him booked in a way they were going to put the title on him. So again, I just didn't feel. Now, you don't need to feel that in every show. Not every match is going to be like that. But I felt like that was one thing with this show. There was maybe 2 matches where I felt I wasn't sure about the outcome. Every other match, I felt like, okay, I know who's going to win this. I know who's going to win this. I felt like we needed a little more of that.
Product of that being set up that way, or do we watch too much wrestling? Do we talk too much wrestling? Do we think too much wrestling? Where we're just looking at it, we're like, all right, that guy. Because that's what I was wondering. I wanted to know why I wasn't so excited for this event going in, or why certain matches didn't pop me more than others.
A little bit of both. Probably. But I mean, not to put over AEW so strong, but like, man, like I watched that show last week, and they had that Hangman Page Dark Order versus the Elite. Like, part of me told me like that the Elite was going to win that, because I was like, they're not going to put the Dark Order over fucking the Elite. But then I'm like, but Hangman needs to get this title shot. So because Hangman had been so strong and everything, like I didn't know who was going to win, and I was like,
There's also a lot more excitement in AEW right now. All things
Sure.
AEW, it seems like every week is big, and
yeah, it's the
plus,
hot. I mean, I've said in the past where like I try not to be like the big mark for those guys, but like right now, I just think you're kidding yourself if you don't think that's the hottest show right now. And you might disagree, and you're entitled to your opinion, but I'm going to say more people than not that are hardcore wrestling fans, like that's the show. If you're giving it an honest, fair look, and I feel like I'm very good at that, that's the hot show right now.
yeah, like even if you're not a fan of the wrestling, you're not a fan of the people that put on the show, what AEW has behind it for buzz coming, I'd like to say coming out of this COVID time, but it almost feels like we're about to be half back in it now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of exciting things happening for the next 6 months that hopefully will roll out the way they should.
And just like a sidebar here real quick too, like we're talking about hot shows and stuff like that. Like it kills me to say it because I'm a big NXT fan and I like NXT still. But like SmackDown's been a better show lately because there's more of a hot crowd and there's some other stuff. And part of it is Pat McAfee is great on commentary. The main event stuff has been built so well. And fucking WWE, not necessarily NXT, but fucking McMahon or whoever killed the fucking push of the world champion, where you're watching him job out on Raw, and then he comes back, he's supposed to be this dominant guy. Whereas I'm still excited for TakeOver, but I'm just like
talking about Cross.
Yes, thank you. Pronouns, pal. Let's fucking let's get the fucking belt on Samoa Joe already, because I'm just like, I know I'm going off on a tangent now, but to me it's like AEW is so fucking hot.
About the excitement of your product, and that's right. One thing that we both felt that this was lacking.
Yes.
But after this match, the Matthew Raywalt and Deonna Purrazzo interviewed backstage, and I think that's where the excitement for this show is. The debut of Raywalt and the teaming of Purrazzo. Yes. And the next match is the finals of the Homecoming tournament. Deonna Purrazzo and Matthew Raywalt versus Rosemary and Crazy Steve. Match went 11 minutes, 15 seconds. And I'd have to say easily the best match on the show.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a great showcase too.
And they really ramped it up. It was interesting to see how each round of this tournament, the matches got a little bit better each way. And I don't know if it was to build to something like this.
I'm curious to see if they'll continue using these two together and keep the crown gimmicks and stuff like that. I know maybe it's a little similar to like a King of the Ring, if you will, but I personally think it kind of fits these two.
Yeah, it's a good way to debut them. I mean, even if you didn't keep the crowns, if you keep that attitude, you keep the pairing. I think the pairing is strong, and that is probably the most excitement to me coming out of this.
What if you put the X Division title on at some point? I mean, Josh Alexander deserves it, but Josh could always go on and Josh could feud with Kenny or somebody at some point. I'm just saying, like, so, but that would let, put a little more gold on this team too. You could have something there.
I would be down with it, just depending on how that story progresses going forward. We'll have to see how Impact is this week coming out of it. Now, following this match, we had Stryker and D'Lo backstage. There was a video package hyping Eddie Edwards and W. Morrissey. And last match of the night, W. Morrissey versus Eddie Edwards. This thing went 18 minutes, 34 seconds. What do you got to say about it? I don't have a whole lot to say, but it's also probably my lack of excitement on the show.
I will say one nice thing about this. I'm glad Eddie Edwards won. Unlike the match earlier with Dina and Mac, where I wasn't looking forward to, and I thought the wrong guy won. This match I wasn't looking forward to, and I thought the right guy won. Edwards comes out strong, and I think at the end of the day, Morrissey, he's got the look, and you could argue more potential, but he's just not hot right now. He's not connecting, and I think Edwards is, he's your guy. And again, I throw a couple names out here. I throw Josh Alexander, I talk Ogona. We got the Battle Royal coming up for Impact. Edwards is one of those Impact guys, right? He's one of those mainstay Impact guys.
He's been holding down the main event for a little while for him.
It makes a lot of sense for him to take on Kenny Omega, and those guys could have a great match together, I'm sure, too.
Yeah, both having roots in Japan now. Now that we've covered the whole show, we want to make it clear that this isn't a session to shit on Impact. This isn't taking time to downplay them. We watch the show because Impact as a brand has been getting our attention. Maybe not week to week, but we catch those big shows. And I just noticed a lack of heat on this show, a lack of, kind of a sense of purpose outside of the Ray Walt debut and Perazo.
Yeah, they set up a couple of nice things possibly going forward. So there's some good out of this too. I would say maybe we set something up with Edwards, possibly, a world title situation. We'll see. And, maybe something with the King and the Queen here. Yep. Like I said, with
Macklin and P.D. Williams going forward.
Yes. So there's some stuff that they set up possibly that could be fun out of this. It wasn't, you could have missed this event. Sorry, it is what it is. But, it possibly set some fun stuff ahead if you're a diehard Impact fan. There's some good stuff here. But at the end of the day, yeah, it was a missable pay-per-view or missable show. But it didn't make me I'm still interested in Impact and what they're doing in the future. And again, it's a great time to be a wrestling fan overall still, people, because you still got all this cooperation going with all these different companies. So
Yep. And I'll give them a positive. The way they display their crowd, it's not a huge crowd, right, but like WWE, they make it work. And that's the one negative I think of ROH is they have that same small crowd, but they're spread out so much that it doesn't look as good on camera. With Impact, they're not super close to the ring. There's not a ton of people, but they fill the screen. It looks good. And I'll watch the next Impact pay-per-view that comes up. So guys, check us out again next week because your boys, we're going to be hitting the road. NEW WrestleFest. We're going to be there.
We're going to be there, baby. We're going to be
like
there.
Like it or not, we're going to be all up in you, Poughkeepsie, and we'll talk to you later.
Get some